The fallacy of Newton's mathematics. Even though an astronomer might find a new planet by applying the mathematics of Newton, this fact does not prove the claim made for it. A noted example of the attempt to prove a false premise by equations which have merit in them as equations, but do not have the least factual merit, was Newton's attempt to prove mathematically that the moon would fall upon the earth if it were not for a mythical initial impulse, which gave the moon just the right speed to keep it from falling upon the earth or from flying off in a tangent. As a preliminary to what I intend to say upon this subject, the moon is not only not falling upon this planet, but is slowly spiraling away from it. Furthermore, all planets in any solar system, and all moons of all planets, and all suns, planets, and moons of every nebula system in the heavens are all spiraling away from their primaries. This is nature's method of preparing for rebirth. Water vapors rises from water for the same reason, to disintegrate. Every body disintegrates after it has passed the maturity point which marks the generative half of its cycle. But disintegration and death are but preparations for regeneration into life. Suns wind up centrifugally to polarize. When they have become true spheres, they unwind centrifugally to depolarize. To depolarize, they throw off rings from their equators. Rings become planets, which likewise throw off centrifugally spiraling rings, which become moons. This is nature's method of returning her polarized bodies into the zero of their source. She divides her masses into expanding systems, and this division continues until matter has been swallowed up by space. Newton evidently did not know of this depolarizing principle of nature. He assumed that the moon has weight in respect to the earth, just as a cannonball has weight in respect to the earth. Believing in the deceptive evidence of the senses, he calculated the speed of continued momentum needed to keep a cannonball from either falling to the earth or from flying off at a tangent. On the assumption that the moon has weight in respect to the earth, just as a cannonball has, he proved to the world that the moon would fall to the earth if it were not for the initial impulse which kept the moon from falling. And that is the belief of science today, because of the belief that weight is a fixed property of matter, instead of being an ever-changing property of ever-changing polarity. Two as yet unknown facts of nature. While considering Newton's laws, I would like to touch lightly upon two as yet unknown characteristics of nature. One of these is the fact that every simultaneous and sequential action-reaction is in reverse of the other, yet nature never reverses its direction from the instant polarization begins. It then extends its dividing effects in two opposite directions, each the reverse of the other, until both of those extensions are voided in their zero of origin, even though they traverse the universe in so doing. The illusion of reversal is so convincing that it seems incredible that it is not factual. The inward thrust of gravity is in the reverse direction of the outward thrust of radiation. Clockwise spirals are the reverse of anti-clockwise spirals, yet each is born out of the other without a reversal of direction, even though the effect seems to be in reverse direction. This must have been intuitively divined by Newton when he wrote his first law. The words "continue in a straight line" have in them a suggestion of his intuitive understanding of that principle, which he was unable to express in the measure of his inspiration. In many such ways he gives evidence of the mystic in him. The other characteristic is the strange effect of polarity which causes all reactions in nature to forever turn inside out and outside in. This illusory effect contributes to the simulation of reversal in nature, giving to nature the sequences of solid bodies, of incandescent suns, surrounded by vacuous black holes of space, followed by the reverse effect of vacuous black holes of space, surrounded by tenuous rings of what has been incandescent suns. What had been incandescent suns. This fact will be further explained later when discussing the gyroscope principle. Comprehension of this two-way pulsing effect in nature makes it more easy to comprehend the rhythmic heartbeat of the universal cosmic pump, for its pistons must continue the in-breathing, out-breathing sequences in every particle of matter in the universe to simulate the eternal life principle by eternal repetitions of life-death cycles. Comprehension of this fact will also clarify the illusion which this cosmic cinema really is, and also make understandable the reason why any happening anywhere happens everywhere. Further clarification of these secrets of the invisible universe would unnecessarily lengthen this treatise, but before passing I will give a law which is valid in nature. This new law, which is fully explained in the home study course, is as follows. Every action-reaction in nature is voided as it occurs, is recorded as it is voided, and repeated as it is recorded. This is a zero universe of seeming. Its seeming reality is but a mirage extended from two zeros upon the blank screen of space to create the illusion of reality in an unreal universe. Inadequacy of Kepler's first law. The saving grace of Kepler's mathematics lies in the fact that he did not try to prove by them a premise or conclusion which is not true, as Newton did by claiming that his equations proved that matter attracts matter and that the moon is falling on the earth. His laws are free from such claims and demonstrate to a high degree the orderliness of effects of strains and tensions in a wave field. If wave fields were not balanced in their polarity, such laws would not work out in nature as they do. It is because of the absolute equality of division of opposing pressures in every wave field that such laws are workable. Kepler's first law reads as follows. Each planet moves around the sun in an ellipse, with the sun in one of its foci. This law is right as far as it goes, but there are two foci to every orbit, and each of them has equal power in determining the rates of acceleration and deceleration of speed. Just as Newton's law accounted for the falling apple, but ignored the other half of the apple cycle, from the zero of its beginning to the zero of its ending, so likewise Kepler's first law accounts for but one half of an orbit by the reference to only one of its two foci. Every orbit is balanced and controlled by four magnetic poles, not two. It has not yet been known that there are four magnetic poles, but a three-dimensional cube sphere universe would be impossible with only the two north-south poles. I will enlarge more upon these four magnetic poles in a later chapter. and describe the separate offices which each fulfills in the extension and retraction of wave fields. The two unknown east-west poles which control shortening and lengthening elliptical orbits are these inferentially referred to in the Kepler law. In order to comprehend the periodicity of the familiar north-south magnetic poles, it is necessary to comprehend the relationship between these two opposed pairs of north-south and east-west magnetic poles and their manner of extension from a common fulcrum and their retraction to it. As planets oblate their north-south poles gradually move away from their poles of rotation, our Earth has become sufficiently oblate for its magnetic poles to move to an angle of 23 degrees from the pole of rotation. This periodicity is balanced by an angular periodicity of planets' equators moving away from the equators of their centering suns, where all planets of all systems are born from rings. The equator of our Earth has moved out of the plane of the solar equator to keep pace with the polar shift. Each must balance the other. The four magnetic poles control that balance. These are the important facts which should have been inquired into when Kepler wrote his law. It is not important to know that the Sun is in one of its orbital foci if the tremendous significance of the two foci is ignored. The amazing fact is that matter and space are playing seesaw with each other in the proportions of an ant and an elephant. The mechanics which balance and control such a stupendous game with such mathematical precision is the important thing to know. An ant and an elephant can play seesaw if the ant has a sufficiently long lever. And that is practically what is happening throughout the universe, suns and planets being the ant, and space being the elephant. The planets and moons of all solar systems are gradually tearing their suns into rings in a most orderly manner, with a precision which is mathematically measurable in direct and inverse ratios. The four magnetic poles in two opposing pairs control this amazing performance of nature within every wave. That is the important thing to know. By means of this knowledge of God's ways of nature, we can make them our ways in the laboratory, and thus have a command over nature which man has never had beyond the comprehension of his day. It seems incredible that Kepler could have known of these two east-west poles without having realized their purpose and their necessity in a three-dimensional universe. Knowledge of God's ways will alone give science the power to balance all effects in the universe of man's making, as God balances them in the universe of his making. The precision of every effect in God's universes is so perfectly managed that an astronomer can calculate to the split second the position of any planet in the solar system, or as accurately foretell an eclipse of one by the other. The secret of man's ability to control his universe lies in the knowledge of the tonal octave wave and its field. Therefore, know the wave in all of its simplicity of 3 times 3 in numbered effect, multiplied to infinite complexity, but still not passing beyond the 3 times 3 of man's easy comprehension. The first great step in acquiring knowledge of the wave field must be the great revolution in scientific thinking in regard to matter itself. In order to control matter, science must know what it is and all of the various steps of its generation from zero into form, and its degeneration back to zero. It must know matter for what it is, instead of believing it to be what it is not, and working with it on that premise. The rest of this treatise will be devoted to clarifying the meaning of this one subject. And I will begin the next video with regarding the quantum theory.